Hello guitar family, welcome back to another instalment of this Bog Oak and Moon Spruce build. I'm going to be talking to you about what I've been up to for the last week, and towards the end of this video I'm going to be talking about some of the benefits about building in this particular method, as well as what you can expect to see coming up over the next few weeks. So what have I actually been up to for the last week? So you can see from a pile of flat wood across the bench, we are starting to go into 3D. So for me, the first week or two of building a guitar, always the bending iron and the bending machine and the vacuum bag, they are pretty much running constantly to get all of these components bent and laminated. So bending the sides and the cutaway section, bending all of the individual strips which make up the solid laminated linings. So out of the two pieces of Spanish cedar that I showed you last week, we've got all of the linings, we've got the structural reinforcement for the bevel, and we also have the blocks here. So I have a laminated tail block and also a laminated neck block with a top and back tongue. Talk more about that later. We also this week have slotted the fretboard, so just in a bit of an initial prep for the fretboard, binding strips and purflings all laminated up. So lots of gluing and sort of initial preparation going on. So as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefit of building in this particular way. And so we'll start with side. On the outside we have our tone wood layer. We have an inner core, which is a cross-grain veneer running the other way, and then on the inside we have a finishing veneer, just for aesthetic purposes mainly. So what that does is, having things in thinner layers for a start, it makes the material easier to handle. It makes bending the material easier, so we get really good conformity to the mould, and this will hold its shape. The cross-grain layer running the other way creates an impact resistant construction, so hopefully you'll never have to actually use that feature, but it is there in case the guitar gets hit from the side. That, as a laminated side, is already very stiff, so that's another benefit, is it's very stiff and stable construction, particularly when we combine that with a laminated lining as well. We end up with a very stiff rim set construction. So the other thing about this, there's a couple of schools of thought around the sides of the guitar and whether they contribute to the tone of the guitar overall. My personal viewpoint is that the sides of the guitar don't necessarily contribute anything to the tone of the guitar, but they can take away from the tone if the sides and the linings are underbuilt or too light. The energy from the top can be absorbed into the sides, so you will end up losing some of that response, some of that projection, some of the volume that you could have had with a more robustly built rim set construction. So for me, the combination of a laminated side and a laminated lining is the right amount of mass, and it achieves what I want out of the rim set. The last part of the rim set really is the blocks. So I've got the same sort of thing going on with the blocks. You can see I like to cut this piece of Spanish cedar up and then laminate it back together with a cross grain layer in the middle. So I always used to think with a block, do I want to run the grain that way and risk a split going through the side, or do I want to put the grain going the other way and risk a split straight through the guitar, through the centre seam? And in the end I just decided I'm going to laminate a block. Same thing with the main part of the neck block. So I've been doing some work on this neck block over the last week, and it's starting to take shape. I also add a front and back tongue, and I find that just adds a little bit more rotational stability to the upper bout, with that rotational force of the neck pulling around the neck block and wanting that upper bout to implode essentially. With the binding, you can see there's a purfling line already laminated on the underside of it, and I start off with a few sheets of veneer, which I will laminate up into a purfling. Then I'll take my slab of binding material, which is ebony in this case, and laminate it onto one of those purfling sheets and take my strips of binding off the edge of that. I like to have my purfling glued to the underside of the binding because I just find it's a little bit easier than trying to add that purfling line in on the edge of the guitar as a separate piece. So that's it for this week, and what you can expect to see in next week's instalment is this rim set is going to be looking a lot more completed. So over the next week I'm going to be working to trim down these linings, get them all finished and prepped, finish off the neck and tail block, put the taper on the guitar and have that whole rim set attached together, and be moving towards starting work on the top and the back. So I look forward to seeing you next week.